Imagine your business not just surviving, but thriving. Your wealth locked in, your opportunities exploding, and your family's future built on a legacy that never fades. I'm Leah Garcia, a financial strategist and insurance professional. I help entrepreneurs and high-growth enterprises protect, distribute, and transfer their wealth through my proven system, the Wall of Wealth. I unite your experts into one cohesive strategy because the most expensive line on your balance sheet isn't debt or taxes, it's conflicting advice. Ready to align every dollar with your mission and turn today's success into tomorrow's divine promise. Wealth today, dynasty tomorrow.
Well, come on in, champions. Happy Wealthy Wednesday, one of my favorite days of the week. However, I do love Money Monday. I do love Financial Literacy Friday, and I do love me some Taco Tuesday. How many of you love Taco Tuesday? I absolutely love a Taco Tuesday. We've got incredible Taco Tuesdays in the Bay Area. So today is going to be incredible. So come on in. Let me know where you are tuning in from. Where are you finding us? We are live right now. We're live on Facebook. We're live on LinkedIn. We're live on YouTube. And pretty soon, listen, I'm going to play bigger. Our 2025 was our year to rise up and thrive. I say 2026 is our year to get in the mix. I say it's time for us to show up bigger. And I feel like I've been showing up pretty okay, but you know what? There's always another level. So pretty soon you're going to see me live on Substack. Yes, we're going to Substack in 2026. I don't know if any of you have heard about Substack, know about Substack, but I'm hearing some great things about it. So I'm very excited. And you know what? I just love today's topic. This is so in alignment with me and who I am. My guest speaker today, I have been hoping and praying and waiting and just wanting to get an opportunity to showcase her. She shows up everywhere. I see her on LinkedIn and just giving so much value, pouring into our community. And this topic today that we have is just incredible. We're going to talk about compound interest in kids, daily deposits for lifelong returns. How many of you have children in your life? Maybe you have little ones. Maybe you're proud gam-gams like me. Maybe you're an auntie. Maybe you're an uncle. Maybe you're a teacher. Maybe you're not, an official teacher, but maybe you're the neighbor. Listen, growing up, I had a great neighbor who was so wonderful to us. She was a grandmother, and we were good friends with her grandchildren, and they called her Granny. And we would call her Granny too. And she would just pick off kumquats off of her tree and give them to us. And sometimes she would send over tamales and cookies. Like, maybe you're that neighbor. I don't know who you are, but all of us have children in our lives. Or maybe you'll just come across a little one, maybe in the store and they're kind of lost. Or maybe somebody, that has kids and you're kind of helping them with kids. We all have children in our life in some form or fashion, right? I see you guys in the comments. Thank you for showing up, Jackie. Oh my gosh, it's so great to see you. Jackie's coming on here. Listen, you've arrived when you're going to have Jackie Holbert on your show. I'm telling you, I'm getting excited. This is just getting really amazing. Meryl, my good friend, great to see you. I love you. I appreciate you so much. I am going to highlight your comments in just a minute, but I want to properly edify my guest speaker. And what I want to say about her first and foremost is I love the way that she shows up for all of us. She's continuously and constantly pouring into our community. And what I love is I talked to her months and months ago about being on my show. She said, you know what? I will have a day off. When it comes towards the holidays, we can circle back. And, sometimes people say things, but, things get busy. Well, I'm telling you, she knocked on my door and she said, hey, Leah, I don't see there's an opening there. I thought we were going to get together. What's going on? I'm like, oh, I'm opening it up just for you. So I love people who are people of their word. Listen, how you do something is how you do everything. You might think this is just a little show, but guess what? You don't know where my show's going. You might say, you know what? I don't need to put anything in the comments, but you don't know who's going to come by and read your comments. And when they read about you, they get to know you. This is your opportunity here to rah yourself. I say this is your opportunity to shout yourself out and showcase who you are because somebody is looking for you and what you do. So my guest speaker today, Dr. Tanya, she is a speaker, educator, author, leader, and she's the owner of Creative Living Ideas LLC. She's an inspiring and spirit experienced professional and educator. She has over 28 years of education and parenting and business owner of over 9 books. She's a talented speaker and she balances her professional and personal life. I don't know how she does that because I'm always out of balance. I don't know how she balances it. She's a professional in leadership and also cooking and self-care. And I'm going to say she does so many things here on LinkedIn. She does host with Damien, the 2350 Effect, which I love that show. They host it on Sundays. Sometimes I catch the replay. She's also an author, like I said, of 9 books. And the one we're highlighting today is Raising the Well-Adjusted Child, a parent's manual. And she hosts audio live rooms on LinkedIn and everything else. And today I want you to give it up and welcome my good friend, absolutely my mentor. She doesn't know this, but I look to her as a mentor and really a courageous woman, powerhouse woman. And we're gonna get really busy in here. We're gonna have a great conversation. Please give it up for Dr. Tanya Barron. Thank you so much, my love. Great to see you. Great to have you. Welcome to Wealthy Wednesday.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for that kind introduction. I don't know that I'm deserving of all of those kind words, but thank you so much. My goodness, that was incredible. I'm delighted to be on your show. Thank you for opening. It's Christmas Eve, and thank you for opening this day up for us to get together. I have been dying to get on your show as well. Like, I love all of the things that you do, and it's amazing. And so I'm excited to be here to collaborate with you. So thank you so much.
Awesome. And you know what? Really, collaboration truly is the new currency. It truly, truly is. And when we can give ourselves an opportunity to step back and highlight others, through osmosis, that highlight comes back to us. And so I know it's a little dark where I am. Listen, I am working remotely today. I'm traveling. So I'm in my precious grandson's room. It's a little wonky in here, but you know what? Champions show up. Listen, I don't make excuses. That's why I don't take excuses, right? Champions show up. We always find a way. So I want you to just tell us a little glimpse of about who you are. For anyone who's been under a rock, doesn't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and this book, The Well-Adjusted Child.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, personally, I am a mom, and I have been a mom for 28 years. I have 2 beautiful daughters who are kind-hearted, loving, hilarious, and a lot of fun to be around. I've been married to my high school sweetheart for 34 years. So we've been together a long time. We actually like each other. So, we always tell people that we actually enjoy our time together and like each other. So that's always a bonus as well. I have some great hobbies that I love to do. I love to golf. I love to do different crafts. I love to read. I love to learn. I love to connect with people, talk, socialize, do all of those things. So those are a lot of pieces about me. Personally, professionally, I've been in education for 30 years. Just had breakfast with some former coworkers, and we were calculating how many years had we been in education, and I think we had come up with 30. I am still actively by day a middle school virtual principal. So I work full time during the day, supporting teachers, students, and families. I have been a principal at all levels. So I've been a teacher, I've been an elementary school principal, a middle school principal, and a high school principal. And I can just tell you that all age of those kids need a lot of the same things. They need care, compassion, love, guidance at every single age that they are. And I absolutely love that part of my job, love doing that. And so then I also have a company called Creative Living Ideas. That is my 5 to 9 job and weekend position that I hold, where I've written 9 different books, including Raising the Well-Adjusted Child, a Parent's Manual. I wrote this book in 21. The information in this book is timeless, and we'll get into some of the information in here, but I've also written a variety of self-care journals, a cookbook, a memoir with my mom and my brother. And then I'm in a couple other publications coming soon, a project Nick is working on, and as well as one is my dear friend, Dr. Mel Vandevort. So just lots of fun activity. And then also I partner with Damian Kinsey for the 2350 Effect, the 2350 Network, and then our two large events, the Virtual Wellness Experience and the Work-Life Balance Summit. And I can do all of that, you know?
That's so awesome. I love it. And you bring the same energy every place that you are. I love that. Whatever you're talking about, you're always bringing you wherever you go. And I love that. That's how you know when people are really being authentic. We talk a lot about that word, but we see people one place and then we see them somewhere else. And I'm not talking about how they look, but they show up differently. Some of you know what I'm talking about, okay? Yes, you've met somebody and you're like, oh my God, this is not the person I thought they were. But you show up congruent in every space and place. And I love that you're talking about children at every level really comes down to they need the same thing. I love that so much. And yes, Miss Jackie, thank you for joining us. Listen, we're going to get on Substack. I've got a little mentor who's helping me with Substack. So get together with me. We'll have a coffee chat. I'm going to be setting myself up. I really believe that that is true. And I will say I have 4 grown children. And then I have my precious grandson. He just turned 7. And it's so true. It's so true. They're still always going to be those things. They all still need that little love time. They're all going to still need that play time, right? And they're all going to still need that conversation that we need to have. You know, I had a little situation last night with my precious grandson, and he was looking for something and he couldn't find it. And I left the room and I had just made up his bed and he tore it all apart he was looking for the remote for his TV. And he couldn't find it. And he was crying. I came in and he was just crying. Oh my gosh, I can't find it. I'm like, okay, we're champions, remember? We're champions and champions don't panic. So give us a minute. Okay, we'll put this bed together. And then I got out my flashlight. I started looking around and I found it. And you should have seen his face just change. I said, remember, Mijo, we're champions and champions don't panic. Yes, Gams. So looking at those teaching opportunities, it's the same with my kids that are grown. Okay, don't tell them, but we still do those things. So share a little bit about that.
I love that. Absolutely. And it's really true. You know, I have adult children and I put myself in the same category. I'm fortunate my mother is still alive, very healthy, very active in my life. And I need my mother. You know, we just talked this morning for an hour just to catch up and, you know, because we hadn't seen each other in like 12 hours. So there was so much to catch up in. You know, at any age, our kids are needing our guidance. And that's the very first chapter in my book. It is parenting is a lifetime commitment. And Leah, you can attest to that. You have 4 grown children. You are still guiding or a sounding board, or they're needing love from you in a variety of ways. And each child is a little different, but they're still needing that from you, no matter what age they are, right? I tell a story. I've told this story a few times. I love this story. About 2 or 3 years ago, my mom and I were on the phone chatting just about whatever, you know, what we were making for dinner, something very unimportant. And she said, "Can I just pause you for a minute?" And I said, "Sure." And she said, "Can I just tell you how much I love you, that I absolutely love you. And I am so grateful that God gave you to me and that you are in my life." And I said, "Wow, thanks, Mom. I love you too." Moved on to the conversation. She goes, "Okay, now let's go back." That stayed with me. Obviously, it stayed with me for years, but that week, that just kept coming back in my mind and coming back in my mind. And I'm a 50-year-old woman. And that was impactful to me. So imagine the impact of telling your 7-year-old grandson, your 7-year-old child, your 10-year-old, your teenager, the ones that are pushing you away. We've all raised teenagers. They're pushing you away. They're trying to have their own identity. Your adult children that are going through tough times, you know, and sometimes as a parent, that is all we need to do for them, is tell them how important they are in our life and that we love them. I mean, an adult child who's having problems at their work, they might just need to hear that from their mom. or their dad.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. I'm going to highlight a few people, and then we are going to definitely dive a little bit deeper into that.
Absolutely. We've got
Christy,
amazing people in the audience.
great to see you. She is our customer service professional, but Christy is so much more than that. Please enjoy a coffee chat with her. She's definitely somebody that you want to connect with. She's somebody who pours into all of us.
Yes.
And then, of course, the great, amazing Miss Jackie Hallberg. She's back to doing her wishful Mondays. I love them. Wishful Wednesday. I love that. That's actually how I got to know her really well. I would show up and listen. That's when we were in the ancient days when we were just doing the audio rooms, and I could listen in while I'm working. And I just loved hearing the community. Jackie's voice is one of those voices I could just listen to forever, right? She talks so fast, but her voice is just so soothing. I'm not sure how she puts it all together, but I just adore her so much. So thank you for showing up, Jackie. And then we have, listen, our community member, everyone's cheerleader. I always like to think that he's just cheerleading for me, but I know he cheerleads for everyone, right? Mr. Merrill, Merry Christmas to you. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for tuning in. And one thing I value so much about Merrill is that he pours into the community through the comments. He will, if somebody comes to his mind, he'll highlight someone, he'll throw like a website in there, a link in there. And I just love that he doesn't just show up, he shows up and brings value into all of us. So I know there's many more of you. If you have a question for Dr. Tanya, listen, we've got her here. I want you to ask her questions. And it's so true that we crave that. My mom passed away years ago, and there are times when I have to kind of like pull back. Okay, what would my mom kind of say about these kind of things? And we didn't have a close relationship, but there were definitely moments that really impacted me and things that she taught me. And we crave those lessons as we get older and our parents kind of fade or they pass away. So I love that you took that moment in, and your mom took that moment to really just pour that into you. Listen, we all crave adoration, right? We all crave somebody to edify us. And even if we think that we're not that close to our parents, we care what they think about us.
More than you could even imagine. Even in the most toxic relationships, children are looking for approval from their parents. And it is very, very true. Yeah. And right before my mom passed away, her and I had a great conversation. I'm so glad we did. We went and spent the weekend together. And I was like, okay, Mom, I'm grown now. Tell me the good, bad, or indifferent. Like, I just want to know it all. No judgment here. Like, just tell me, like, what was a real story? What was this about? Like, really tell me what's going on. And we had just a great conversation. And then she passed away not too long after that. And I was so grateful that we did that. Mm-hmm. So maybe as adults, we need to circle back to our childhood sometimes. But I want to really dive into this compound interest in kids, daily deposits for lifelong returns. So tell us about that. What's the first thing we need to know about these daily deposits we need to make into our children? Right. Absolutely. So I do want to take a second and thank everybody who joined us today. And, a lot of people are in the 2350 network that are here with us today. So thank you very much, Christy, for being here, and Nicole and Jackie and Leslie. Linda Meyer, thank you for joining us as well, Natalie and Merrill. So I do appreciate your time today on this holiday. Thank you so much. So daily deposits, we spend a lot of time sometimes, especially now, it's the holidays, right? Pick this up, pick that up. People are coming, clean that up. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you get that? I asked you to do this, right? A lot of negative comments sometimes can come out of our mouths as parents, right? To our kids. And so how are what we're saying to them really impacting them long term? And so one of the things that's important is that we're putting positive deposits into our kids every day, right? So for every negative, they say you should have 4 positive comments to counteract that negative comment. And I think as a parent, it's really important for us just to really spend time being with our kids and being conscious of what we're saying to them. And this does not mean I am a perfect parent. That is the first thing that I always tell people. I am not a perfect parent. I have made my fair share of mistakes. You'll see those in my book. I talk about them. I shouldn't have done this, or this was too much for me to handle, because that's real life. But when we take some time and we start practicing and learning about the things that we are talking to our kids and saying to them, there are times we do have to guide our kids, and we have to tell them to clean up their room, and we have to tell them we probably have to repeat ourselves. But there are also things that we can also compliment our kids on and encourage them with, and spend time really talking to them about things. And I'll just give you kind of a brief example. So we were just talking about the holidays, right? And talking about maybe getting onto our kids about picking up the house or getting things ready for the day. Sometimes sitting down with your kids and giving them specific directions and talking to them. One is teaching them how to have a conversation with another person, especially an adult. Like, can I please sit down with you and talk to you? I want to talk to you today about what my expectations are for you for today. Maybe we're having to pack up the presents. I've got to get the car loaded. We've got to be at grandma's. They need to take a shower. So really communicating with your kids and talking to them about what the expectation is for the day. And you know what's really great? Thank you for listening to me today. Thank you for sitting here with me. Thank you for repeating what I said. As parents, we have to acknowledge when our kids are doing the right thing, and that they're following the direction that we're giving them in a positive manner. So that's a deposit, right? You've taught them how to have a conversation with an adult. You're teaching them the expectations of the day, how to be planned, how to be organized. And, you're thanking them for the time you've spent actually talking to them. Maybe they've set their devices down and they're giving you full attention. Thank you for doing that for me. And sometimes we have to help them, like, what if you know your child well enough, and this is a very broad conversation because every child is different. Say your child has a hard time, they get distracted. Maybe you set a timer. I'm going to have you go take your shower. You've got 10 minutes in the shower. I'll set a timer for you. Or after you get that done, come and tell me, I'll tell you the next thing. Or I'll write you a list. Like, what does your child need in order for that? And so there might be a couple of different strategies with that. And so you're teaching them a strategy and a structure of how to maintain themselves as an adult down the road.
Yeah, I think teaching kids how to have that communication, especially with adults, because they feel like adults are up here, and especially when they're little, it's so critical, so important. And what are some things that we can teach them, like how to have that conversation? Say they're 4, 5, 7 years old, right? As they get older, it might be a little bit easier. But what are some foundational things that we can put in place when they're little that they can carry themselves through into adulthood, really? Even because some people, even adulthood, have difficult time having conversations.
Right. 100%. And this is the thing. And this is, and you can probably relate to this financially in some way, shape, or form. But right, when you put in deposits in the early years, like you're putting in a lot of deposits before you really see the maximum output, right? So you're daily depositing in to make sure that your return at the end is large. And so, that's kind of what happens with our children. And so a lot of people who are listening now may just say, gosh, my kid's 12 and I really haven't spent this time. And this is a strategy I'd like to use. You can start doing it now, but you can also start when your child is an infant. Like, communicating with our kids starts at a very young age. And you'll say, like, an infant? What do you mean? Well, the child is in their bouncy seat and you're explaining to them what's happening today. You're talking to your kids. They're learning your tone. They're learning your inflection. They're hearing your voice. They're learning words, communication skills. And so, hi, good morning. We're going to get ready today. We're going to go to grandma's. I'm going to put your outfit on you. You're going to have a bath first. We're going to put your outfit. I'm going to pack the car, and you tell your kids that at 2 years old, maybe they get a visual schedule, right? Here's what you're going to do while mom hops in the shower. Here's your visual schedule. and you might put like the bathtub and a lot of times parents can get something like that, or it's maybe, like little magnet things, and they can put together for kids at that age. They get a little older, they can create the list, for you. Now you're adult. Your adult teen is now able to manage. They're going to school, they have a job, they're having to go to practice or, dance or whatever they have to go to, or a club that they're socializing in. And now they're learning some management skills of what to do.
Boy, that is such gold. That is such that rerun, clip that. Okay. If you're watching this, go back, listen to this again. I'm telling you, there's so much wisdom in that. And what it makes me think about also is when things are going great, that's awesome. But what about when things are not going well? Say something interrupts your day. I like to teach through osmosis, right? So if something isn't going right, then the way we thought it would go, then I like to have a conversation out loud so that my precious grandson can hear me, the thinking process that I'm going through.
Yes.
Okay, that didn't work out. We had a situation where just recently where we were going to the parade. He was going to be in the parade with his school. We couldn't find them. And he was like panicking. I'm like, you know what? We're champions. We don't panic. We pivot. So listen, there's always a way, Mijo. There's always a way. And so I'm, okay, so what are we going to do? Okay, let's walk over here. So I'm just like talking out loud so that he's hearing how I'm processing that. And I think that's so valuable. So it really goes to your point, is that we think that it has to happen when our kids are older, but it can also happen when our kids are younger. And I need to plug in my computer. So you're going to go ahead and chat for a minute.
Sure.
Let me.
Absolutely. No, I agree with that. And I think, yes, these scenarios are in perfect time, right? So now, for example, your child is 12. You've never asked them to do any of this or to be prepared for it. You may receive some pushback from your kids, but I encourage you to continue to be persistent, and to, calmly, it's easy to kind of flare up and yell at our kids, but also, start with some small chunks. Like, what do you think that you can get done today for me to help out today, and kind of chunk the things that they can maybe do. And, sometimes other things happen. Kids get sick. They don't feel well. They have anxiety about where you're going. And sometimes that delays the route. Communication, though, is so huge. To stop and pause. You might be late to the party, but let's stop for a minute here and think about this. Now, I'm going to tell you, this was not my greatest skill as a parent. It took time to learn how to say, let it go, Tanya, if you're 10 minutes late. This obviously needs to be addressed right now. And that was actually probably more advice from my mom, like, hey, take a break. She's not trying to ruin your plan by being late or by not getting this task done. Something's going on. You need to sit down and listen to it and figure out what's going on. And that was hard. As a parents, we're always learning, because there's not one size fits all for every kid.
There really isn't. And, with my kids, for me, I had two raised 4. So my biological children are 5.5 years apart. My sister, unfortunately, who I was very, very close to, got into drugs, substance abuse. And me and my ex-husband ended up raising her children, who kind of ended up being right in the middle of my 2 biological children. And so they were like back to back to back. But they're siblings. I mean, they were 5 and 6 years old when we, took them in. And for me, it's like listening to how all of them, not just their interpretation of me as a parent, talking to them as adult is very enlightening, but also watching the lessons that they've learned and them sharing it with each other, I think that's like our reward, right? When we can watch our kids as they grow and they start to implement some of those lessons, even if they don't give you credit for it. Like I hear them sometimes, I'm like, oh, I taught you that, but hey, we just let it go.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, it is true. There are some things that you have to just kind of, there's plan A, there's plan B, and then there's plan C. And plan C is we're just letting this one go.
Mhm.
Plan A is, that kind of direct where it works for a lot of kids. Most kids, they want structure, they want routine, they want consistency. They want to know the plan. And most of us want to know the plan. We don't usually like to go somewhere where we don't really know what's going to happen. So as adults, we want to know the plan. So why would our kids not want to know a consistent routine or a consistent expectation? So I would say another piece to that is that routine and structure that's important for kids, and when you have those, and I talk about this in my book, I was parenting for 10 years before I decided to take Sunday off the table. And I just couldn't, I worked full time. I was going to college. To get my master's and doctorate. I mean, I went to school for 12 years while I had kids, and I finally said, I just need Sunday to be the day what I want it to be. And it ended up being, we go to church, we'd always run to the grocery store, and then we did whatever we wanted that day at the house. And I told my kids, I'm not going to drive you anywhere. You can have whoever you want over to the house. I'm making dinner. I love to cook. And so I'm making whatever elaborate meal I want. I'm going to take a nap. You're going to take a rest. My kids ended up, and my husband loved Sunday. It was their best day of the week. And my reason for saying that is the things that we do as a parent, our kids are either going to keep or they're going to ditch, right? My kids love Sundays. They still today use Sundays in their own day as their reset day, so that they stay home and they get themselves organized. I would meal prep my meals. I would get all their notes signed for whatever they needed for the week. And it was tough. I turned a lot of people down, but teaching our kids kind of that structure and routines of the weeks is really something that will benefit them in the long run. And that's really where we're kind of at, what we're talking about. When we're raising our kids, it's fun. We love them. They're cuddly. They're cute. We read books to them. We go play at the park with them. We do all this fun stuff. We have these elaborate, wonderful holidays with them. But in the long run, our goal is to make them become successful adults.
Right. Gosh. That is absolutely right. And that's really, for me, has been the biggest lesson. I don't know that I was always thinking about raising my children to be successful adults. I was probably more like in the minute, like we've got to do this studying and stuff. And with my precious grandson, I have more wisdom, thankfully, thank you, right, that I'm more thinking about, okay, how can you take these lessons with him into adulthood? I'm not raising him to be a child. I'm raising him to be a grown, productive man. So, man, that is so fire. Yeah. What if we are raising our children and we don't have a lot of structure, or we have a child that maybe resists the structure? Because not all children thrive in structure. Some children, they kind of are already preferring like the unstructured. What would you say to those parents?
Yeah, I mean, all kids are different, and there are some kids who, thrive differently. And I think that's just knowing your child. We still want to teach our kids some specific things so that they need to know how to grocery shop. They need to know how to manage their money. They need to know how to, take care of themselves, clean, things like that are just kind of those basic skills that we have to teach our kids. But, I think as kids grow, giving them some autonomy into making some of those decisions is important also. And, you can use kind of a backwards design, dinner's at 5:00 tonight. What, here's some things I need to have you do, but can you select which order you want them to be in? How long do you think this task will take you? you have until 5 o'clock today. So are you going to wait till 3 o'clock to do them all? You want to do them now? There's kids are different. There's some kids that are going to want to say, I'm just going to get it done and then I can do whatever I want all the rest of the day. Right. Or you can talk to them. I mean, there are negotiations that can happen, and teaching your kids to negotiate is also a skill, right? So they may say, I'd rather do that tomorrow. Is this a task I can do tomorrow? Can I do this today? And there's things like that you might be able to, work through with your kids, but you're teaching them some responsibility as well. My kids went to college and came back, and there were kids who didn't know how to grocery shop. They didn't know how to manage their money. They didn't know how to have themselves on a good schedule to get their homework done. And those are skills, if you're moving on in life like that you are going to need. You're going to have to learn how to manage your time, even if you're more of a free spirit, because at some point in time, there's something that you're going to need to accomplish.
Yeah. Yeah. What's coming up for me is I love the way that you shared is that as long as they get it done by a certain time, and I find that really worked with my strong-willed middle son, was that it's all of them. Okay, here's it is, dinner time's at 5. These are the things I need to get done. And I'm excited to see what dinner when all these things are, checked off. And, I had several structured children that would kind of check the box. I had my middle son was more like, okay, am I eating today? Do I need to eat today? We kind of like negotiate that maybe he didn't need to eat today. Okay. So giving them that, empowering them to make those decisions so that we're not constantly feeling like we're in a battle, right? We don't have to be the dominator. We don't have to, just as long as the things get done. Listen, are they fed? Are they showered? We got our jobs to keep them alive. And it doesn't mean that it's always going to be in a beautifully packaged the way that we want it.
No, absolutely not. And that's okay. Right. People mistake having structure and things like that as far as, let's say house rules as perfection. That does not mean perfection. So for example, I didn't care what my kid, and not every parent is like me. I did not care what my kids' rooms looked like. If I asked them to go in and clean their room and they picked up 3 things and then laid on their bed, that is how they chose to live in their room. That's how they chose to live in their room. But I did have the expectation of the rooms that I was going to be present in. And those were the rooms that I wanted clean. And they knew that. They knew that the kitchen and the family room and the living room, that living space where we all cohabitated, needed to be a certain way. Not perfect, believe me, not perfect. But the bedrooms, and then, I'd go in and help them. It's a lot. They're young. We have to remember kids are young, and you give them tasks according to their age and what can they handle, right?
Yeah. They're making it easy for them. So in my house, we had a playroom. Okay. And then they had their bedroom. So a lot of the big toys were in the playroom, but I made it really simple for them to put away, right? You have buckets, you have containers and things like that. So always look neat and tidy. But when it came to their rooms, hey, listen, we can't be, I had 4 kids. They each had their own room and plus my own bedroom. Are you kidding me? Listen, you kept it down to a low fire.
Yes.
I'd go in there once a month and try to, straighten some things out, make sure we're washing sheets and stuff and all that. But listen, especially as they get as teenagers, some things we just have to decide we got to let things go.
It's real life. And, I always would say Sunday, my house would look nice. By Thursday, I'd stacks on the kitchen table and, book bags here and papers there and toys here. I mean, that's just life. And then you just have to reset the whole house. I mean, definitely a lived in peace.
I would love for you to circle back. I'm sorry. Did you?
No. Please go.
I would love for you to circle back because there were several comments. I saw Queen Dr. Leslie Flower mention this and a couple of others mentioned this about being true to your word. What are some things that we can teach? What are some ways we can teach our children about being true to their word? Because I think that is something that not everybody does. How can we teach that to our children?
Well, I always say, modeling modeling. So you are modeling that. If you are true to your word to your children, they will be true to their word, or they'll at least understand that. They'll have seen that. They'll have a good idea of that. And that goes for a lot of things, like true to your word, empty promises. If you do this, I'm going to buy you this. Then if you give that phrase out, you hit a home run, I'm going to buy you a new $500 baseball bat. That's a big promise. Are you sure you want to do that? Maybe Dairy Queen might be a better thing to say if you hit that home run, right? So as parents, like when we're giving our word, we need to really make sure that we can actually, follow through with that ourselves. And so when we start doing that in compliments, in, our actions, that's what speaks louder, right? But also, when we're given a consequence to our children, if you do not do this by this date, this will happen, and being true to that and holding true to that, then they do learn that this is a true word. Our parents are, mean this. When they say that, they mean it. It is going to happen. And so I think that's just as important, when we're talking about discipline. So those deposits into our kids about discipline are just as important in starting a very young age. And then you will not have the problems that, could occur as older teens.
Yeah. Clip that. That was amazing.
Thank
Gold
you.
bars here. So what comes up for me, and I use this strategy a lot with my kids. I didn't like to, raising 4 kids. Listen, if you're promising $500, it may not always happen, but I like to do rewards. I love free. So I would say, okay, all the kids that had their rooms cleaned by this time, we're going out to go play this game, or we're going to go and take this walk. We're going to go to the park. So all the kids that are doing that are going to be able to enjoy this, right? So that it takes away that you got to get this done, and kind of that whole thing. And just learning that, listen, if everything is important, then nothing is important. What are the 3 things we need to do? Keep them fed, keep them alive, So what are those core values that you need to instill, and what it is that we need to let go? So I think that's so brilliant. And just thinking about the different ways that we can implement that, really being true to our word with our kids, with the little things. Mm-hmm. So really refraining from making those monetary promises. If money is, for most people, we're looking at, we're having to make those decisions on what we can and cannot do. But what can you reward them with, that if they have those things done, that are those free things? Can you take a walk, play a board game, make a special cookie session, or read a special book, right? And then for me, it makes it less about a battle and more like, okay, it's just it's a natural process. If you do the things are going to happen. And if you don't, other things are going to happen. That's what's going to happen in life. Listen, you can show up to work anytime you want. But if you don't show up to work when the boss wants you there, then you're probably not going to have a job much longer. Right? The boss is going to scold you. They're not going to take your toys away. They're just going to say, you know what? You probably don't belong here.
Right. And that is hard for some parents to, to understand and know, but very, very truthful. That, the real world can be really harsh if we don't have our kids prepared for it. And so I want to talk about the title here, Raising the Well-Adjusted Child, a Parent's Manual. Well-adjusted does not mean perfect. Well-adjusted means that they are able to handle what life throws at them. So we have to tell our kids no. Like, we have to tell them, no, they cannot do that. They sometimes don't get the reward. Now, rewards, that could be a whole show at some point in time, but rewards work for a lot of kids. They do not work for every kid. There's always that kid who doesn't care about the reward. And you probably had one of your 4 didn't care if they went to the park or the walk. They didn't care about that. That is not what they cared about. So you could put $1 million reward in front of them and it really wouldn't entice them one bit. And they're a little more challenging to where you have to get down to the root of that reward. And some kids feel like they never get the reward. And there are some who don't, right? They never get the reward. I remember reading as a teacher a book called Punishment by Rewards. And, some kids never receive a reward. So we have to learn how to work around that. How do we get our kids to do things without having to give them something monetary? And a lot of times our kids really truly just want time with you. Like Leah was saying, they want to be with you. They don't want this. Keep talking. I know what you meant. They don't want that. They want this. They want you to stop. They want you to listen to their story. They want you to pay attention to what they're doing. I promise you they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, you're just bringing up so many great memories. And yes, I've had my strong-willed son definitely was like, how is this guy ticking? And then I read a book with the love languages, and that really helped me to understand, okay, what do they really want? So then I could speak in their language and can kind of build structures for that. Instead of making listen, if it's important to us, doesn't mean that's important to them. If their love language is really acts of service, but you're giving them words of affirmation, then that doesn't help them at all. So, and my precious grandson, from the time he was little, he's a very good communicator, and he would tell me, Gems, are you listening to me? Like when he was like 2 or 3 years, yes, Mijo, I'm listening to you. Well, if I tell a joke, you're supposed to laugh. I said, well, what's funny? He said, it doesn't matter. You're supposed to laugh anyway. You laugh like this. You laugh like this. Ha, 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 ha. I said, you want me to laugh? That's a phony laugh. I mean, having these conversations. But now I know if he tells a joke, he expects me to laugh, even if I don't think it's funny, right? But how many kids can't really verbalize themselves that way?
Well, and we teach, there's not a lot, right? And we teach our kids how to have that conversation by us modeling that. So for example, if I did have a work email or a text or something that was so important that I had to answer at that moment, which has happened to me 100 times, I can say to my child, can you just hang on 1 second? I need to finish this, and then I want to be able to completely focus on what you're telling me. And they just wait, and they can wait and say, I just give me 1 minute. Let me finish this. This is a work text, and then I'm going to put my phone down, and I'm going to be paying attention exactly to what you're saying. They are going to learn the value of that.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what I do with my precious grandson. However, he knows what 1 second is, so I can't I need 7 minutes. I need 7. Like you'll look at 7. Is this 7? Okay, that's 7 minutes. Okay. So be congruent with your language, right? I love this comment by Miss Christie. She says, I think this is the one. I wish I could teach my adult son to wash the dishes. What about our adult kids? What if we're still living with our adult children? Like, what? Give us some wisdom here.
I've had a friend ask me, I think you should write a parenting book on adult children. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. But I think what I would just have a conversation with them about it. Like, can you tell me about why washing dishes is so challenging for you? Help me to understand why you cannot do this. Because I know Christy very well. I feel like it. And I would say, because there's 2 of us in this house. And this is a conversation as your kids age. There are 2 adults in this house now. Now you're 20 years old. I'm expecting you to do your dishes. I will do my dishes. Or if you're home that day, then I expect you to get the dishes done on the day that I'm home. So tell me about that. How can we make this work? And when you bring them in on the conversation, instead of coming in and going, gosh darn it, every time I walk in this door, the sink is full of dishes, right? We just get mad. They shut down. They go to their space. You go to your space. It's not a good, but how can we make this happen? Because this is a trigger for me to walk in the house and have these dishes. How can we fix this? And it may be as simple as that conversation.
Right. Yeah, that's good. Hopefully you caught that, Christy. That was fire right there. So what about our children that don't take bribes? This is it's really more of a comment, but I'm going to put it in the form of a question. I want to shout out to my Gita girl. She is the card carrying member and president of my 4 a.m. club. In her neck of the woods, it's 5 a.m. club. Listen, we love you so much, Gita girl. So what about the children that don't take bribes to perform on demand, or it's just not happening for them? They don't care about the ice cream or any of those things. What are some strategies we can use with those children?
Well, and that's a real conversation to have with them too, and it's usually an outside the moment conversation. I'd like to talk to you tomorrow about you not following my direction on the chores that I'm giving you. And I think then that gives them some think time. You're not just jumping at it, gives them some think time. You schedule some time with them. I'm going to meet with you tomorrow after school. So be prepared. We're going to have a conversation about the chores that I've asked for you to complete that you haven't completed for me and, or for our family, or however you choose to phrase it. And then, you share your concerns with your child. My concerns are this. You can throw in some cleanliness things. We don't want to get bugs because we've got dirty dishes in the house. Your clothes are smelly. I want to not have 10,000 pounds of laundry to do when you finally bring it to the laundry room. Whatever your concerns are. And then you ask them, well, what is your concerns? And they may not have any. And then you try to come to an agreement together of how you can resolve this problem. I work full time, you're at school, so how can we make this happen? Some kids may not have the executive functioning because maybe they haven't been taught that, of how to sort their laundry or how to dust their room or how to fully make their bed or whatever the case may be. And so maybe you have to support them. A lot of times we tell our kids, go clean your room. Well, they may not really know what to do. Leah put in buckets. I promise you her buckets were intermixed at one point in time with Lincoln Logs and Legos and whatever. And there was probably a Sunday she sorted it all out and reorganized the room one day. And then in 2 months, it was cluttered again. And that's just kind of the cycle of what's going to happen. But we start teaching our kids these systems and they probably need a little extra guidance. Maybe they want to make it fun. Maybe you want to sing songs together while you're doing it. Sometimes if they're shutting down like that, they might need just a little more support from you, a little more attention from you, a little more care and compassion.
Yeah.
Other kids,
you can really wisdom. And
yeah.
Right. Yeah. It really is their interpretation, understanding that. And maybe like you alluded to, maybe it's just not that important to them. Maybe in their world, that's where they know where their Lincoln Logs are. And that's where they know where the Legos are. I want to highlight this comment because this is something that I also do with my kids and I do with my precious grandson. And it's kind of a long one. So this might block you. It's going to block us for a minute here.
That's okay.
I'm going to actually keep it in I taught mine mathematics hands-on. Whenever we were out grabbing groceries and other supplies, I would give them the money to pay. And then they had to go to the cashier, count the change out together. I love that so much. That is really teaching them so many things. And she says, thankfully mine, when they were younger than they are now, they used to positively mimic my habits. That's great. If they had leftovers, they would dispose of these. That's wonderful. Wow, you've got amazing kids. Put their dishware in the sink. Wow. To be washed, I always gave more than 3 options. Gave no more than 3 options. I love that wisdom there, Natalie. give them options, right? When you give them options, make sure that they're choices that you can tolerate, whatever that choice is, regarding the contextual day-to-day development of critical decisions. I love so much wisdom in there, Natalie. I don't know if I know you, Natalie. Do you know Natalie?
Natalie has been at the 2350 Effect a couple of times, or maybe to parent that I host on Mondays. So thank you, Natalie. I love that. And I'm so glad we're talking about money because, you know, I taught mine money too, like actual physical dollars and coins. We don't really use that too much anymore, right? And so I remember when my daughter was young, she was like, well, just put it on your debit card. There's always money on that. Oh my gosh, what are we teaching our kids? There's not always money. There's not always money on that card. I have to work to put money on that card, you know? And so that's a whole conversation of teaching your kids the value of money and how to save it and how to spend it. You know, in my house, we didn't get paid to do chores with my kids. My philosophy was we all live in this home. We all work in this home. We all have jobs. We go to school, daycare, wherever we go. And it's our responsibility as a family to make sure the house is in order. And so we all had specific jobs and they would change. Like I said, you know, I had my certain spaces. As the kids got a little older and maybe I was working in the summer as a principal and my kids were in middle school, high school, they would clean and mop and they could do those things for us. Now, if they did above and beyond those regular expectations, then I would pay them for that. You know, like if you wash my car today, I'll pay that. If you do my baseboards, if you're doing the blinds or the windows, you know, those bigger kind of, and so they would earn some extra money with those things. And they learned how to babysit and have jobs. And I think all of that is so important for our kids to learn that. They start learning the value of money, having them pay for a few things here and there, you know, their snacks when they go to the movies. They understand that that's expensive, right? That's $10 or $15. Do I want to spend my $10 or $15 on these snacks, or do I want to wait till I can go shopping, you know?
Yeah. That's exactly what I do with my kids, is that we had their chores, but then if they wanted to earn extra money, they could do extra things.
Yeah.
And, you know, some of my kids, those were important to them and they loved having their spare money. I didn't really do the other part that you're sharing. Like if we went someplace and they contributed, I kind of was like, that was their money. They just kind of had it for pocket change kind of thing. Cause we didn't pay them lots. I mean, it might've been, you know, $1 or something like that.
Yeah.
That was back in the olden days, though. My kids are kind of older now, right? But I don't know where this hour has gone. This has been incredible. I love this, so much incredible value. So lots of great takeaways here. And I would really urge everyone to get your book, The Well-Adjusted Child. So give us one takeaway that we can put in our pocket, we could use that's evergreen with all of our children. What is the one thing that we need to consistently do from the time they're an infant till the time we leave this earth? What is the one thing that we can do to teach our children to be well adjusted?
Well, I will tell you, the one thing that every child wants to hear is that they are loved by you. And, you know, even the parent-child relationships that are strained, maybe they're not the best, they still want to hear that they are loved by you. And when you're disciplining a child, you know, you're most of the time disciplining or upset about something because you're worried or fearful of something that might happen to them. So just remind them that I'm making this decision because I love you. You know, I am teaching you this because I love you and I care about you. And so I think if we're always telling our kids that, and they're understanding that you truly believe that you feel that you love your kids and express that to them, they will just be so grateful for that, and that will fill them up.
Mic drop, clip that. Absolutely. Love it, love it, love it. If you guys don't know, on StreamYard, they say to say clip it, and then AI will make a little clip for you. So that's why I'm saying clip it.
Cool.
Hopefully that works. We're going to check it out. I don't know. I'm learning. But this has been incredible. I would say everyone needs to pick up your book.
Thank you,
the
Leah.
well-adjusted child. No matter what age our children are, it's always an evolution, right? As they're adults, and then they become parents themselves. And I haven't gone beyond that, but yeah, it's a learning process, and giving ourselves grace to know that we're in the process too, right? We're constantly learning, and as we know better, we can do better. Thank you so much, Dr. Tanya. I just adore you. I appreciate you so much. And, we talked about this year, 2025 was our year to rise up and thrive. 2026 is our year to get in the mix. And this is what I mean by that. If you're saying that you're in the shadows, maybe you're somebody who you would like to maybe host a show. Maybe you want to be a guest speaker, right? Now's the time to put yourself out there. Now is the time to put yourself in the comments, because you don't know who is looking for you. You don't know who's going to peruse this show and see your incredible comments, like Natalie and our Queen Dr. Leslie Flowers and Christy and everybody else that's here with us, whether you're here live or on Team Replay. We love you, and I want you to get in the mix in 2026. Listen, take off the gloves, pull back the curtains, have the courage to show up as who you are. We're all here to get to that next level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I just believe that if you're here, it's because you're the one in your family. You're the one in your family to change your family's last name forever, whatever that means to you. Maybe you're the first one in your family to become an author, like Dr. Tanya. Maybe you're the first one in your family to pay off your debt. Like, I don't know what that means to you, but every generation goes all along until the one shows up, and then we raise that bar for generations to come. Thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate you, Team Live. If you were here live, please put live in the comments. And if you're Team Replay, put Team Replay. We adore you so much. And remember, every Wealthy Wednesday, I'm here every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. I'm always looking for guest speakers. If you would like to be a guest speaker, reach out to me. Let's have a coffee chat. And I'm not looking necessarily for somebody that has a huge, audience. If you're brand new here on LinkedIn, I just had a coffee chat with someone that has 300 connections. We're going to do a show together. So it's not about having a huge audience. It's really that you have an incredible message to share. I'd love to highlight you. I'd love to collaborate with you, because collaboration is a new currency. Thank you so much, everybody. Enjoy your Wealthy Wednesday. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas Eve. And I love you all. See you all in 2026 when we're getting in the mix. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Are you ready to take control of your financial future? Introducing Leah Garcia's Wall of Wealth, the ultimate one-page financial plan to protect, distribute, and transfer your wealth with confidence. Whether you're a business owner or just starting your financial journey, this step-by-step guide gives you the tools to create a solid foundation for long-term success. Don't wait to transform your money mind shift. Download your free copy today at leahgarcia.io and start building your wall of wealth now.